Hi there, hope you're doing well today and welcome back to Valheim. This is episode 15 and today I want to continue work on my village and maybe build another structure or two. But first things first, I'm gonna go to sleep, it's cold. Day 131. It's nice and clear now. Anyways, at the end of last episode, I set up a couple fences here to see which ones would survive rotting in the rain. So this fence mostly survived except for this long piece here. I think just too much of it was exposed to air because this small one is perfectly fine. This entire fence, however, survived. This is perfectly healthy. Something I didn't know, however, is that if wood is attached to these stone walls, it doesn't rot in the rain. So all of this is perfectly fine. Then the second it's away from stone, it's rot. And that is especially handy for areas like this where I'm not going to put a fence on top of this wall, but I won't have to repair it, so I'm very happy about that. To start out for today, I'm going to extend this railing here all the way across this wall, and then I will continue the paths over here. Okay, so I started extending out this railing here, and I came across a problem almost immediately. And that is that connections with these inner corners like this are always going to be a bit off center from the rest of it. And that's because this intersection here has two connection points essentially. The outer ones do not though, they just connect to one point. So I looked to the comments of the last video for a suggestion and I decided to try using core wood. And not only do I think this looks better, it also helps hide any weirdness a little better as well. It's actually pretty handy that it just started raining because I need to now wait and test if these will rot. I kind of expected this long center one too, but over on this side I have two shorter pieces that I think will survive. But until then, I actually want to start continuing the path work, and I think I'm going to start right here and connect this back up to my house again. I don't want this path to be too close to this one, so I might go around the top of this hill just a little bit. There we go, I think that should do. Okay, so now that my house is connected to the marketplace area, I want to continue this path over to the farming area. But first, I want to check on my core wood fences, and it looks like I may have been right. Yeah, so everything here is solid except for the long beam here, which is very easily solvable. I just need to use the half pieces instead, which I think look just as good. So I'm going to actually continue this railing now using core wood instead of normal wood. And here it is all done. I only did this layer for right now because I'm actually out of core wood and I'm gonna need to go farm a lot more, but I can do that later. Right now I need to connect this path over to the farm area. This one should be pretty straightforward. And here is this all done. At this point, I decided to switch to these wooden fences that maybe the farmer themselves put up. I also took inspiration from a very old comment. I'm sorry, I don't remember what video it was or who said it, but they suggested using the cart and letting it break down just as an extra little detail in the world. And I think this works really well, especially for the farmer. Pretty much the last path I need to make now is connecting the inn over to the market area, and I think I'm going to continue this path out here and loop it back in to the path by the farmer, right here. And that should do it for all of the main pathing here in Firereach. I guess I still need to build up to the lumber yard, but we can get to that a little later. I think once I start placing in more shops, houses, and other little structures around the paths, this place will really start to come together. But so far, it's looking really nice. I'm very happy with this. Pretty much the last thing that needs to be done with all of the path work in this area is the stonification of it all. So I'm going to get started on that. It's going to take a little bit because I actually need the stone cutter to place these paths down, but it will be well worth it. Why is here an ocean splash? What in the world? Alright, so 20 minutes and 271 stone later, all of the paths are completely paved. A lot of the paths aren't perfect, much like this one, but I actually think I prefer a lot of these little inconsistencies around. I think it makes it feel a little bit more lived in and natural. That could probably be fixed. But yeah, bits where the grass bleeds into the stone or the stone bleeds into the grass, I think actually makes it look a lot better overall. Anyways, I think that's enough path work for a little while. I really want to get started on a new building. By the way, this cart still kind of just lives here. So the building that I want to make is stone related. I was originally going to make a sort of hybrid mining operation, stonemason kind of structure, but I decided to split it into two separate structures. The first one will be an actual mining camp somewhere up here in the Black Forest where I actually get most of my stone, as well as any metals, of course. And the second piece, I think I'm actually going to add onto the forge. I want to extend a little bit off of this side of the building. Very similar kind of open wall thing I've got going on over here, except this one will be the stonemason's workshop. I feel like connecting these structures makes enough sense. The thing is, I have pretty much zero actual plans for these structures, so this one's going to be a bit more freestyle than the rest of my buildings. Another problem is my cart is stuck, but I think I'm actually just going to go ahead and make another one, because what's the harm in two carts? Okay, this should definitely be enough to build the whole mining operation side of this production. Now I just gotta haul the cart way over there. Is it gonna take a minute? And here we are at what is currently my little mining operation setup. So, as I said, I don't really have any set in stone plans for this place, so this is gonna be very freestyle. And the problem with that is I don't really know where to place this building because I don't know how it's gonna look exactly. And you know what, actually? I think I'm going to put it right alongside this copper mine I have here. I think that'll really help settle it in. And that actually gives me a super cool idea for something I can do with this place. This little mining operation area will be almost exclusively decorative. This is kind of just to build on the lore of my world, I guess. So I think I'm going to clear out this area here and build it pretty much directly alongside this drop-off here. So here's kind of my plan for this place. I would like to have a big stone platform here with I don't know if it's a crane, maybe more of a lift, to lift material out of this giant quarry here. Like I said, this will be mostly decorational, so that actually doesn't have any purpose or use, but it's just kind of awesome. I'm going to start with some basic frames just to kind of get an idea for the size I'm looking for. And that feels about right. I could also always just expand this later. Now for the foundation, and I'm going to use these 2x2 stone floor pieces for the surface, just because they look nice and smooth and clean. Okay, and let me guess. Okay, that's going to break. And that should do it for the base foundation of this place. That actually looks super cool. I really like how this place looks. Now to get started on that lift idea I mentioned earlier, I think I'm going to start with the actual lift platform, and I want that to be down at the bottom. And that feels about right. From here, my plan is to kind of have this lift platform suspended by a rope system attached to a crane and some sort of pulley crank thing over here. One problem with that, though, is how am I going to support all of this if it's only going to be held up by a base way over out here? For now, I'm just going to place a little support beam in the center. I hope that's enough. I'll turn this into a sort of carriage for the resources. Something like that. And then use these sloped core wood pieces to kind of mimic a rope. Very, very thick rope, but until I can use something thinner like these wood iron beams, I think this is just going to have to do. These already showing orange doesn't really give me too much hope for the structural stability of this thing. Yeah, these are red. These are red. Good God. All right, I'm just going to add some more supports down here for the time being. I'm sure I'll find something to make this work a little bit better in the future. Okay, so I think pretty much at this height, I want to extend a sort of crane boom arm all the way over here and then down to a base right here. So, does that look good? Why am I crouching? So, I think that looks good. I think I like that as the general kind of idea for the crane. Definitely don't think this could support all of that, though. I need to beef this up a little. You know, this actually doesn't need to really be a crane. I think I can still put supports right here, for example, and I think that would make enough sense. This whole crane system is really only going to be used to guide these ropes over to some sort of crank over here. By the way, I know this doesn't need to make logical sense, but I just think it feels so much cooler when things at least feel like they could be real. Now, if I wanted to beef up these arms a little bit, does that work? It feels a little bit too big, maybe. But I could do something like this. I feel like that looks a lot better without the walls in there. It feels a lot stronger than it was before, but also a bit more open and wireframe, which I really like the look of. Okay, so what I want to do now is take this rope from this, I guess what would be probably a pulley, and stretch it across the frame here into the main house. Like that. Does that look good? Let me try it a little higher up. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better. I like being able to see the rope between the frames here. That's a really cool idea. Okay, so I think I can lead these ropes, into the main house, and then in here, I'm going to have the rope go down and into a sort of manual crank. All of this box here is going to be covered up, by the way, so I kind of imagine a series of pulleys in here to maybe reduce the weight load. Something like that. That's really neat. Now, to connect this rope to the crank. See, I think that looks good and makes enough sense. But what I'd really like is for it to be set up something more like this, maybe? To just make it look like the rope is going over this center bar here. And actually, I think that looks really good. Hold on. I think that's really cool. I think that works very well. Now, I do still want this upper part exposed because I think that actually looks super awesome. One thing I do want to add is some of these sloped wooden beams to hopefully protect at least part of this from rotting. Alrighty. I think that pretty much does it for the crane. I really like how this looks. This is cool. Now, the only real problem with this is figuring out how to support it down here, because once I break these supports, I think most of this part is going to go, and I don't really want to risk that. A stone platform underneath like that doesn't look too bad. It does kind of look like an arm grabbing the stone underneath, though. Actually, I just had an idea. If I just built this support a little tiny bit lower, I think I could sneak some supports in the middle underneath. That would be really hard to spot. Yeah, it's still definitely a little visible, but it honestly isn't too bad. I mean, I'm never going to be down here really anyway. Like I said, this is mostly all for decoration. I will have some, like, very basic temporary storage for stone here, but most of it's going to be in the stonemason's workshop over by the forge. Okay, so now that the crane and the actual lifting platform are all done, I want to put some stones on this thing. Oh, it doesn't like that. Okay, what if I built a stone platform off of the center there? Nope, still nothing. Ugh, this is a little tricky, huh? Oh, okay. I put in a little more ground around here, and I think that was just enough to support that centerpiece. So I'm curious if I could put stone up here now. I can. Yes. Very nice. Okay. I'm not going to put much of these big stones here. I just kind of want to put a few scattered around. And then maybe one of these piles down too. Somewhere maybe right there. Oh, that's so cool, man. Okay, so now that the whole crane part of this structure is done, I want to put just a very small little shed somewhere over against this side. This doesn't need to be very big. I just want to have at least a couple chests in here, like I said, for temporary stone storage before I transport it over to the stonemason. And here is the shed. It's too dark for you to see anything. I will be right back. Okay, here is the shed. Once again, this is just very temporary storage, just a couple boxes in here, workbench. I think I might actually want to keep a stone cutter somewhere over here, so I guess it'll stay right there for now. I am very, very happy with how this place came out. It's so interesting looking, and I am especially proud of how this crane thing came out. I wasn't sure how to go about doing this, but this quite frankly just looks awesome. This area is, however, missing one thing, and that is a name. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little signpost up. Where's the sign? There we go. Mark not mines. There we go. Such a stupid reference. I don't know if anybody will get the Mark Nut reference, but if you do, please let me know. Make me feel heard. Alrighty, well I think that should just about do it for Mark Nut Mines. This is the actual stone collection part of this operation, but I'm going to go back into Firereach and start working on the production side. And I'm going to try my best to carve a path all the way back over into Firereach. This is going to be a lot of hoeing though. And there we go. Alrighty. Path complete. I emptied this cart so I can finally move it off my stairs. Alright, there we go. These stairs are walkable again. Anyways, now to get started on the processing part of the stone collection. So I think I said earlier, this section is just going to extend out of this wall, essentially the exact same way that this portion here does. I think on this side though, I want it to be even more of an open plan, like how this entire front is open. I think I kind of want to do that on all sides for this section. Next, I want to put just a couple little tables around here and maybe some piles of stone and stuff as well. Oh, and most importantly, the stone cutter, of course. There is something I can craft in here, the sharpening stone. What does this do for me? Grinding wheel. Is that a forge upgrade? Forge improvement. Yes, it is. Okay. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked there. Let me finish decorating right quick. So here is the mostly complete stonemason's workshop. I of course have the stone cutter, along with some stones to cut scattered around the workshop, as well as some larger stones just outside. On this workbench here, I wanted to make a sort of hammer and chisel, and the flint knife was the best I could do with that. I think it looks pretty okay. I also changed up this area a bit. I decided to open this all up instead of having doors, mostly because if I were to have swinging doors here, it would have really limited my kind of building space. And I also removed the door from the foundry side of this place just to make both sides match. I think I'm going to put this sign sticking out of the wall up here. And now, of course, for the name of this place. And to go with Mark Not Mines over there, I'm of course going to go with Flint Coals Foundry and Stoneworks. The reason I did it this way with the two signs is because it was just way too small with one, so this ends up just looking a whole lot better. This double sign technique is a little tricky to get right, but it's essentially just splitting the total character count per line, then adding dashes or whatever else to force the text to either side. But that completes Flint Coals Foundry and Stoneworks. This is another reference that I really hope somebody out there will understand. With this structure complete, I think I'm going to actually leave off here for today. We got so much done today. I of course finished all of the pathwork around the central fire reach area and made it all stone. Now it's all nice and purty. I also have this path shooting off of my house leading all the way over to the Black Forest over here where I constructed the Mark Nut Mines. This is where minerals will be broken down into smaller, more transportable chunks, where they are then brought all the way back into Fire Reach to the newly renovated Flint Coals Foundry and Stoneworks. This is where the broken down resources will be broken down even further into smeltable metals, or worked by the town stonemason. Pretty cool stuff. I really like building this lore for no reason. This is very fun. So yeah, we got tons of stuff done today. This was a very productive and very fun building episode. I very much enjoy these. Next episode, however, I think I'm going to take another break from building and upgrade all of my gear to iron. I expect I'm going to need more than this, so I'll probably end up venturing back into the swamps, which will hopefully be a lot easier once I get some of my gear upgraded to iron. But until then, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.